All right, guys, welcome back to the Get Leverage podcast. I'm Sam Newell, your host, and I'm excited today. I've been planning this recording for a while now with Bhawna Sharma Puri. Bhawna actually has been working on some projects for me in marketing and my company, and I'm really excited to talk about a few things that she's doing for me, namely our Cleveland portfolio. We have 500 doors up in Cleveland, and she's been doing a stellar job putting us on the map, pun intended, working on Google Maps and our Google footprint. So I'm really excited to talk about what works and what doesn't work in marketing these days. I know I get bombarded with people who are trying to get me to hire them for whether it's my multifamily business, my local real estate business here in Utah. I run another company as well with my buddy, and I'm always stuck with the question of what's going to work. Like, if I spend these marketing dollars, am I going to get a return? And so that's one of the biggest things we're going to talk about today. But first of all, Bhawna, thank you so much and welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sam. Really excited to be here and chat with you today. Love what you're doing with the podcast, as well as all your other amazing companies.
Well, thank you. Yeah, and we got connected because you're actually invested in some of those deals, and we actually had to fire our previous property manager, and it's been rough. We took a look at our marketing, and I was like, I just don't think we're anywhere where we need to be, and so we started revamping things over a year ago, and then you actually reached out and you're like, hey, this is what I do. Let me help you. And so what's interesting is we had tried and failed to elevate to get on Google Maps and really have a footprint. And it's difficult. We have 28 different buildings in Cleveland, and I'm not there, so it's hard to get verified. And our previous property manager just completely failed. I mean, we were bugging him for over a year, like, hey, we've got to get on Google Maps. So we've got to get reviews. And it just complete failure. And so my first question is, like, we can talk about that here in a minute, but I think what our listeners would be really interested in hearing about is it's 2025, there's social media, there's Google Maps, there's so many different things that you can do. But if you could kind of go into what doesn't really work anymore in marketing, let's say you run a real estate business, a dental business, just anything where you're trying to drive traffic to your business, what just doesn't work anymore?
Marketing is like going to the doctor. You can go and say, well, to a good marketeer, you can go and say, this is my pain point. Like my head's hurting. What could it be? And then a good marketeer will diagnose the issue to be able to come up with the channels and the tactics that will work for you. Pictures on social media are fantastic. A good tagline is fun to scroll when you're constantly scrolling. However, for an entrepreneur, I always say that Google is the number one place to go. You and me as users go there. Every one of us, the first time we have a question or need something, or your tooth's hurting and you want a dentist, you'll Google it if you don't already have one. So
Right.
to me, Google search, Google local search, Google Maps is the foundation. It's the bread and butter. And having a solid presence, having good backlinks, good citations, having a solid Google business profile, to me goes a long, long way, because all the other things are nice to have. Instagram's great to have. TikTok's awesome. However, that doesn't drive the leads that we want. That doesn't drive business, phone calls, visits to the website, like the hard metrics. So to me, I would say social media is awareness. Google is generating leads.
I love that answer. And, I actually became a paid TikTok influencer back in, when was that? 2021 or 2022? I had a few videos that just blew up. And it was all my marketing guy, Eric. He's awesome. He follows me when I do these site visits, and he'll, just roll and shoot video and interview me, and I'll interview people and check on the properties. And we had a few videos just blow up, and people started calling me the Gordon Ramsay of multifamily because I was chewing my employees out. I didn't even know he was shooting. And I was like, what are you guys doing? This looks terrible. Like, I can't believe I'm paying you. Anyways, I was pretty ticked off, and we got millions of views on those videos
Oh, wow.
and zero business.
Your
And
business.
TikTok paid me, like some money to go viral on a few of those
Yeah,
videos, and it was fun and it was cool. And then in the past, I've paid to have more followers on Instagram,
there you
and
go.
I just can't quantify a return. And
Yeah.
so I love what you said about Google Maps because we started pushing really hard on our Texas properties a year ago, just over a year ago, 5-star reviews and just being on Google Maps. And then you started doing that for our Cleveland properties because that was a lot more challenging. And the results are absolutely quantifiable. People are finding us on Google. They're renting I mean, that's our business, right? We have apartment complexes that we have to rent out. And so we can actually track where these people are coming from, where they're coming from apartments.com, Google. And it's like, oh, yeah, that actually works. All the money we spent on social media, it got us followers, but it didn't equate to money in the bank or renters in units.
Yeah, for sure. And at Marketing Powerhouse, which is my company here, I am known in the industry, and I've been in the industry for 20 years now. I'm known to ask my clients to do less marketing, which is very counterintuitive for a marketeer. And I'm known to sort of say, let's go back to quantifiable, data driven, intent based marketing. Let me just double click on intent based marketing. I'm a huge fan of that. And I do that for my own business here. When there's a user out there looking for you, like you said, a renter, a tenant, what they do is they go to two places. They go on Google. They will, of course, look you up on social media to see if you're legit. They'll read your reviews to build trust and credibility. And they also now go to our AI search engines such as ChatGPT and Gemini. So when they have an intent to look for you, you need to be top of mind. You need to be on one of the top results when they're looking for you because they're ready to pay you the dollars. They're ready to be sold to, and you don't even have to convince them like a cold call. So just be where their users are looking for you. Let's go hang out where they already are. Let's already capture the intent that they have of being your customer. And to me, that is a low hanging fruit. And so many entrepreneurs and so many businesses forget about that.
I love that. And yeah, renters aren't really looking to rent units off of TikTok, you know, but they're definitely on Google Maps. If I'm in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, amazing location next to the Cleveland Clinic, #2 hospital in the world, I'm not TikToking where to rent units. I am Google mapping. And so that's why I was like, you know what? Yes, you offered to help us send us your proposal. And I was like, absolutely, we have to do this.
Yeah. And as an
So I'm
investor,
excited.
like, I have vested interest in the success as
Right.
well, right? And so for me to say, I really want Sam to be successful, and that this goes out to all of your other investors, just doing the right thing. And what I call the needle movers is important in the business, right? You can spend all your time, like you said, being followed by a cameraman, paying for followers, and all those great things that I call fluff in marketing. Those are great, but that's not what brings the money in. So we've got to go back to the data driven, intent based marketing. And the beauty is, like, on a given day, I can see how many calls, how many website visits, how many directions to the business, and what keywords are people finding to reach you or your competitors.
Right.
Right. And so it's like very tangible. It's very, very tangible. And I geek out on this marketing stuff all the time. The space is changing, very rapidly changing. Now 63% of the users like you and I are also going on ChatGPT or Google Gemini to sort of say, like, give me the best dentist in the area, give me the best, bakery in the area. And so you got to be where they are. You got to stand out. Otherwise, they've moved on to your competitors.
Yeah, and you got to have reviews too. Like, so what we started doing on our Texas properties, and I said, hey, property managers, you're there, you're with our renters. I will pay you $20 for every 5-star review you can get. Our whole staff. So there's 5 people on staff at one of the properties. That's $100 I'm spending for every 5-star review. But then they started going to the tenants and saying, hey, I think you're happy here, right? Like, we did a good job. Can you please leave us a 5-star review? And we went from an average of, like, on the property we had just fired the property manager on, we were at like a 2.8 star review. I mean, it was bad. It was
Yeah.
really bad. And then all of a sudden now we're at a 4-star review in just a year. And it's just crazy how much traffic we're getting. And so talk to me a little bit about what you're doing in Cleveland for us, because I think people might want to really understand, okay, what does it mean to be on Google Maps, really getting reviews? What does it mean to be able to show up in these search results? But we have 28 buildings there. Every single one of them is now going to have its own page and be able to show up when people say on Google Maps or just on Google apartments in Cleveland, Ohio. So tell us
Yeah.
how you're doing that.
Well, the secret sauce lies really in building trust and credibility with Google, right? As you can imagine, Google has crawlers, these search engine crawlers that crawl different sites to be able to render search results when someone searches for properties near the Cleveland Hospital or apartment in Cleveland with a zip code on it. So the formula really is for us to start adding these keywords on your Google page. So Google has a local service called Google My Business Profiles. And what we need to do is number one, own it. Number two, verify it. Number three, optimize it. And this is an ongoing exercise. It's not like a one and done. You've got to make sure you go and see what keywords people are searching for. Take those keywords, put them in your Google profile, all the way to even tagging the images, the outside of the property, the inside of the property, and tagging every single image with the right keywords. These are high volume keywords. These are keywords that are what I call long tail in the marketing world. So a very long keyword, which is what like how you and I would search. Like we would want to search exactly what we're looking for. We tag images with it. We then go to directories in Cleveland and we start submitting your address and your name of the building to this. That's what we call the NAP citations or NAP link building. That's name, address, phone number. And the more I do that with directories that are credible, directories that are important to Google, the more you start showing up higher and higher organically on search engines. And this is not a pay to play. It's not a paid ad. It's just us organically boosting your profile higher up for users that are looking for it. And the beauty of SEO or search engine optimization on search engines like Google is that once you do it, you can keep your rank, you can keep your place, you can keep your spot. So the work that we do, while it's slow to build sort of that SEO credibility with Google, once it's done, you're there, you're on top. Unless you really get bad reviews and they start bumping you down or you do something shady. Other than that, you're there, you're on top. And this is like a one-time investment I highly recommend businesses to do because then you're not paying for every click. You're not paying for every phone call. And that really does add up. And there's a constant sort of pipeline that's working for you while you're sleeping or doing your other things that you love doing. It's like those calls will keep coming. Those website clicks will keep coming, right?
Yeah, and that's amazing. As a realtor, I pay for leads. As apartment owner, I pay apartments.com. I've paid for Google advertising.
Yep.
And if you stop paying, the leads stop coming in. So this is really, really important for our properties because we can't just keep spending that much money. And so if you look at our marketing bill, analyzing what to do, it's like, hey, we're spending this much on apartments.com and Google paid ads. But as soon as we stop, those leads are gone. And so I was talking to my team and I was like, no, we have to do this because then once we've done it and we're there, we can get that traffic. And maybe one month we have a little bit of a light month and maybe we need to cut back a little bit on marketing. We can do that without suffering and not having the leads come in. And then, we have a better month the next month and we double back down on marketing. And I know realtors, I'm a realtor, been doing this for 14 years here in Utah. It's the exact same. We spend a lot of money on marketing. That's the toughest part about real estate. Everyone says, oh, I can sell a house. It's like, well, yeah, anybody can, but getting that consistent business to come back to you so that you can pay the bills is the hardest part. And if you're doing the Facebook ads, like which I've done, the TikTok, the Instagram,
Yeah.
Google paid, like that adds up so fast. The Zillow, it's so much money, and it's none of that stays with you. None of that stays with your business.
Right. For
That's the
sure.
hardest part.
And I will say that there is a place for paid media if someone's quickly looking to like ramp up and quickly wanting to get leads as the work is happening in the background to build a website for them that truly speaks to their brand, that really makes them stand out. And then Google SEO takes time, but it really pays off dividends over the years. It's like a one-time thing, like a website, right?
Mhm.
What I want to say about these things is that as users, we're omni-channel. You can't just be in one place. You've got to sort of like sprinkle it out where you're everywhere. And so they can find you wherever they are. Typically, a user does 7 searches before they even pick up the phone to call you. So just remember that it's important to have that Facebook page. It's important to have presence on Google. It's important to have a killer website, a website basically that not only looks pretty, but is also optimized for Google search engines is key because that to me is your home online. That's your house. That's when someone walks into your home speaks a lot about you as a person and how you are as a personality. And to me, that's the website, right? If you don't have one today, like, are you even legit? Are you even a legit business?
Yeah, and I think, if I look back on money spent, I should have built a brand rather than, but not done the leads, but at the same time built that brand
Both brand.
in Cleveland, the apartments in the go-to apartments in Cleveland, and that would have been a really good brand to start 3 years ago when we bought the properties, or in real estate. I kind of stopped selling in 2018 when I started my multifamily company, and I let that brand die. And it's killing me that I did that because I had so much momentum and so much repeat business coming to me, and I let that brand die, and I'm just starting to rebuild it again. And so, if I had to give marketing advice, someone was asking me, that's exactly what I would say as well, is go do the paid ads, get the business coming in, that's all fantastic, but absolutely build your brand. And Google's a huge part of that. Of course, everything else is as well, but those Google reviews, if you can show up when people, first of all, Google you, and then you have positive reviews. I'm terrible at getting reviews. I think I have like 20 as a realtor right now, because I
Oh,
let that die and I just haven't been doing the last few years. And so, I think, maybe talk a little bit about how important are reviews, because I've heard people read the first couple reviews and they'll decide if they're going to use you or not.
yes.
Talk to me about that.
Sense. Oh my gosh. So the stat again, I'm very data driven, so I'll talk stats with you. I think the stat is 10 seconds. They give you 10 seconds to decide if they're going to keep scrolling to the next person or if you're going to get a call. And I cannot underline the importance of trust and credibility in any industry, especially in real estate, right? Your brand, you're the brand. They're not buying a product or a service. They come to you for you. They come to you because they can trust you. You're credible. You're likable. You're somebody that they would be okay making one of their biggest decisions in life with. So to me, your brand is paramount. And in marketing, I love making my clients look like these rock stars, which they are, but they just don't know how to get out there. At some point you mentioned that you're an introvert, but I feel like it is my job to make sure that you're crushing your marketing goals, that you are
Yeah.
looking like the rock star you truly are. And that starts with online reviews. Right. So I am known to push my clients to get in front of the camera, to show their face, their smiling faces, and talk to their audience.
Mhm.
As uncomfortable as that might be, I think that really, really helps. I do that for a ton of my clients here in the Bay Area in California and beyond. I have gifted, and I always, as one of my opening gifts to my clients, I give them Google review cards. These are not only QR cards that they can keep in their wallet, but also if it's a brick and mortar, it's right there. I know you're shy, but you just have to get those reviews.
Yeah, it's huge. What's interesting, I love what you just said about, just get in front of a camera. That's the whole reason I started my podcast. So I had a friend who just became a huge success in the podcasting world, just landed the biggest guests and became just hugely successful. And someone had pushed him to start a podcast, and he didn't really want to, and he was just fantastic at it. And we were talking, and I was like, hey, I want to educate my investors, my clients, my real estate clients, and of course, I want to share good reviews and interview good people and build myself, but. I didn't think a podcast was a good idea. I was like, I don't think I'm going to be good at it. I'm kind of monotone. I'm definitely kind of introverted. And he pushed me so hard to do it. And I launched in 2020. It was called the Recession Proof Real Estate Investing Podcast. And amazing timing because that was when the COVID shutdown started. Everyone was ready to listen, and especially about a recession. And of course, the marketing was fantastic, and it blew me up in the multifamily space. But also the relationships and the credibility was crazy, just absolutely crazy. And I didn't consider myself a great podcaster at all. And there's people that are much better and do an amazing job. But yeah, it was interesting the conversations I started having. People, they would comment to me about my podcast, or I do social media clips and people be like, "Oh, that was so great, that was amazing." And then I started getting investors off of it. I started getting real estate clients off it. I was like, "No way, I just did it because I
Mhm.
I wanted to connect with people. I wanted to produce some good content, and maybe it would help me with marketing a little bit. And it absolutely blew me up in a few spaces. I became a TikTok paid TikToker because of it, and just really interesting. But I just, yeah, what you just said was really important. Getting in front of your audience, and I was not great. I started doing Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives, and when I started my podcast, and by no means am I this amazing speaker, but it really worked. And so I love what you just said about that.
Yeah, and what it does is it connects you with your audience, and we're all just being our authentic selves here, right? And I know you, I know myself. We like to help. We're good people that like to help, and I feel like podcasts and videos give you an outlet to be able to share your knowledge with everyone else. We're all good at what we do, what I call the zone of genius, and we're not good at or great at several things. But if we can, in our car or in our drive, listen to a podcast and learn something from it, why not? We are, constantly inundated with so much on social media that I feel like sometimes not looking at things, but just hearing it registers more, which is what I love about podcasts. And of course, your old school books, which I'm also like an avid reader of books. So I think it's important to authentically connect with your audience. And I'm so glad that you're doing this because I enjoy watching your videos and hearing your podcast.
Well, thank you. And you just said another really key thing, authentically connecting with people. You don't have to have this scripted, eloquent, amazing thing that you produce. People really enjoy authenticity. They enjoy hearing stories of what doesn't work. One of my TikToks that blew up was me finding heroin needles at my property, and my property manager was just not cleaning the trash up. And I was like, what the hell is going on? I'm so glad I flew in unannounced.
Yeah.
And like, what the hell? Like, this is not okay. Like, I am paying you money to take care of my property and you're not doing it. And that blew up, and it was authentic. I was frustrated. I didn't even know he was rolling. I didn't know he was filming me.
Yeah.
And so yeah, people really enjoy authenticity. And in a world of so much fake news and fake reality TV, people really enjoy authenticity.
It is
Go
key.
ahead.
It is key, Sam. Like in the world of, like you said, everything being like so scripted, overly like filtered, AI generated, if you just can be real and impart your knowledge and share it with the world, I think it resonates. And it also makes you feel good going to bed at night, knowing that you're authentic in a world where everything else is just overly scripted and sort of like off of Chat GPT.
Yep.
I also like to just make in-person connections. So as an example, I sit on the board for Cal State University, where I go and talk to professors and MBA students, tell them, hey, what you're learning in the books is now relevant in the marketing world or not. And same for Harvard Business Review. Just go and look at the material to just ensure that whatever they're learning is what's happening in our industry. And it's amazing when I just get to hear the students, the professors talking, when I get to hear other business owners tell me, hey, you gave me that tip to stop doing that paid promotion and it worked and I'm saving money, but we're doing more of this. And people are just calling and I ask them, hey, where are you coming from? And they say, we Googled you and we found you. And to me, just those real human relationships, that in-person interaction gives me more fuel as it would give somebody watching our videos or podcasts. I feel like it's a two-way street. Like we exchange energy when we're being authentic and when we're being real with others.
Absolutely. And that's one thing I've loved about the podcast as well. It's a real authentic connection with people, and I learn a lot from them as well. And so we're moving along. This is really good stuff. I kind of skipped over you and your company Marketing Powerhouse. So I want to get back to that a little bit. But you've been doing this 20 years at a very high level. You're in the Bay Area with some, I mean, amazing amount of marketing firms in that area, that service the tech industry. And a couple things that we talked about, or that you sent me, is you've got three rules that you live by. One of them is you want your clients to look like rock stars, and helping them crush it with their marketing goals. Number two, you want to provide quality, transparent work that drives meaningful results. Again, we've talked about doing what works and helping people understand what works, being a good human. And I love that. And I really like that one. And that's the one I want to have you kind of expound on a little bit. I made a rule back in 2018. I left a partnership I was in and I said, for the rest of my life, I'm only going to work with good people who are honest and who are fun to work with. Very negative partnership, a lot of greed, a lot of just unhappy, greedy people. And I hated it. And I hated it. And my partners now are just good people. Lyndon, who is my 50-50 partner in everything we do. We can have some pretty negative situations, stressful. Cleveland's been very up and down. We had to fire some people but no matter what happens, he's been a very good human being to be around. And, I don't have to worry about trusting him. And so let's talk a little bit about number three there, being a good human, learning to help and give and just be, again, a good human being.
Yeah, so like for me, it's the ethos and the very fabric of who I am. And when I started Marketing Powerhouse, my full service digital marketing company here, I wrote guiding principles to just guide me as a person. And those are the guiding principles I put in every offer letter for every employee I hire. And it's very important to me that we live by these guiding principles, one of which is just be a good human and help where you can, right? So, a small example of that is for every client that I get, I do one pro bono marketing service for a business in need or a small business that's struggling or somebody that cannot pay me or a charity foundation, an NGO, a temple, a church. So to me, giving back in ways I can is important. For me, making sure that these small businesses are carving like a pool of funds to give me and with the hope that it'll bring them returns is important. So they've trusted me then as a person, and I want to make sure I do right by them. I want to make sure I crush my goals. So they're like, oh my God, Bhavna, this is our slow season. We never, like, I have a client, October, November, December, January kills them. And this year, for me, just to go in and say, you know what? The calls are coming in a slow season. What's supposed to be a season where they go dip into their savings is a season where they're like keeping the lights on and starting to thrive. Those are things that make me happy as a person.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that I feel like you can put no dollar amount to something like that, right? And to me, I want to continue to live by that principle and then also hire and also partner with that principle in mind. And so to your point, like you had a partner that didn't really align with your values, I think to me that's super important. That's even true for clients. Like if I have a client that's like asking for something shady, like my first answer is like, I'm not that person for you. So maybe we're not a right fit for each other. So if you're going to ask me for like, any like shady directories to be a part of, or like overnight, if someone's promising you to make you number one on Google search results, they're doing something shady that's going to eventually ban you from Google and it's going to hurt your business. So just say no to stuff like that.
Yeah, I love that. And it feels way better being in business with people like that. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of people that want results no matter what, or they want the quick fix. I steer clear from those people as well. I've had investors get really frustrated with me, like, "Hey, let's go buy this property. I feel like we can do this," and it's just like you're trying to cut corners or you're trying to do shady things. I want no part in that. And so that's why that stuck out to me. Be a good human being. Life's short to have shady, dishonest, not nice partners. And so, that's what I focus on as well. But going back to Marketing Powerhouse, your firm, you've been doing this 20 years. You have some big time clients, you have some people that are smaller time, but I know what your main goal is. You want to drive actual results. So tell me a little bit how you started Marketing Powerhouse and how you've had to kind of transform and grow it into what it is now to get those results and become such a great success.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So, I mean, if I go back to marketing just as a field, I feel like it's not only a passion, I think it's a gift. I feel like these ideas flow to me. I feel like I've always wanted to be in marketing since I was a little girl. I remember being 10, like brushing my teeth as a 10-year-old girl, coming up with jingles and ads for the toothbrush. So I love, love, love this field. I'm super passionate about it. Like you'll find me reading in the middle of the night, like a latest article about something new in the industry. So I love what I do. And Marketing Powerhouse is purely a result of that. I had businesses reach out to me to say, hey, Bob, no, we're so great at what we do. We love what we do, but we just don't know how to get the word out there. I don't think people know about us. Can you help? And so then I started small and started helping businesses generate awareness, get leads, and really be known, get that visibility online, right? As more and more of us are online, especially since COVID, I started helping these businesses sort of make a name for themselves locally. And when we saw results, like data-driven strategies leading to tangible results, I was like, wow, I'm onto something here. One client told another, and nothing like a good word of mouth referral,
Mhm.
which got me to where I am today. And so it's been a fantastic journey so far. I'm really excited to continue to grow and expand. We're a full service digital agency, so we're like a one-stop shop, right?
Mhm.
You're good at what you do. We want you to focus on your zone of genius and continue killing it there while you sort of had this ally by your side, somebody to sort of look over and say, hey, can you help with marketing? And, something I had said in the beginning is like, I'm known to say less is more. I'm known to say, please stop paying for that. It's your hard earned money. Let's just do
I
what
love that.
works. You've got to open the hood of the car. You got to look beneath and say what's working, what's not working. Look at data to inform your marketing decisions. You cannot have a one size fits all. You cannot have that broad stroke painting where like you don't know what you're doing and you're hoping it sticks. That's not how marketing works. It's very data driven. You've got to see where are people coming from, what kind of people, what demographics, what psychographics, what are their motivators, what area, what zip code, what time of the day are they going, where are they going, what page on the website, how much time are they spending on the website, did they abandon the cart? If they abandoned a cart, why did they abandon a cart? Like we're talking a lot of detail into coming up with the strategies. So you got to start with that. Like I was saying, going to a doctor, diagnose the problem, figure out what's happening, and then you take the medication for it. You can't just turn it on and say, oh, let me put a poster on Instagram, let me put a video, and then see if that helps me get business.
I love that. No, that's huge. And I know one of your goals is, building trust, staying top of mind. And there's a few things that, you had mentioned to me that works. Number one, personal branding, video content to
Yeah.
gain that trust. So if you have that content out there, maybe that gets you clients, maybe it doesn't. But the one thing it can do is give you credibility, build trust with people. If you don't have it, they know nothing about you.
Yeah.
And so it can just really build engagement, which is important. The SEO optimization and the Google ads, that's really, really important. You can pay for those ads. Again, we talked about this, but being able to get the organic traffic, that stays there once you've done it. And, you can be top of mind, but if people can't find you, if you're really good on social media, but you're nowhere on Google Maps and Google, that doesn't work as well. So we talked about, community pages, IDX listings, bringing that organic those organic leads. And then the AI powered search, Google search, do you show up? You mentioned 63% of people are now using AI based searches and I think it's awesome. I actually it just pops up on my phone and I'm like, okay, yeah, I could Google search or I could have the AI search for me and tell me what they think the top results are. And that's really important. So those are the three things that really stood out to me. Is there anything you want to add to that or do you want to expound on those at all?
Well, I will say that all these three things sum up to one thing, which is we've got to win the minds and the hearts of our audience, right? We want to be there when they're looking for us. And the way we do that is by those three things. If you're constantly there, doing a video or showing up on social media, but also showing up with excellent reviews on Google search, then you've showed up on an AI result. Imagine those touch points and what subconsciously that does to a prospective client. They're like, oh man, this person legit sounds legit. I think this person is worth a call. And once they call you, of course, your authentic voice and your authentic self will show up. And to me, like my job is just making sure that prospective client, that lead, sees you for who you are online before they even pick up the phone.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love that. And so let's I'm a realtor here in Utah. Let's say that I'm looking at hiring you. The thing that stood out to me is you offer a done for you. Like I hired a guy actually in January of last year. And he's like, hey, we're going to do this, this, and this. And it required so much of my freaking time. It was like a part-time job. And after 3 months, I paid him like $6,000. And I was like, what is going on, dude? He's like, well, you got to do this. I'm like, I don't have time. Like,
Yeah.
I hired you because you said you were going to do all this. And then once I hired you, you gave me a part-time job to go do it with you. What are you doing? And he was really upset because he thought he was going to make all this money off me and we're going to work together for a year. And I was like, no, like you just gave me a part-time job. I already work two jobs. I run multifamily investment club and I sell houses and I have kids that like
Yeah.
this is not what I wanted. And so the done for you is way more enticing for me and probably 99% of people out there, they don't want a second job. And that's intimidating. It's they have time constraints. So tell me a little bit about your done for you. I think you had 4 points that you had talked to me about, but that's what I'm interested in. And I think that's what our listeners would be interested in as well.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, right? Like we hire a service or a company to take things off of our plate, not add to it. And so to me, I'm a big believer, even in my own business, in like outsourcing things that I don't have the time for or the expertise, such as like my accounting is 100% outsourced to an expert that I interviewed and I trust. And if that person now comes and makes me like sit with them and start doing crunching the numbers, that's going to take away from my passion, which is marketing. So, in the same way, what we do is we take it off of your plate. And after doing an in depth sort of like analysis of like your goals, what you want to get out of this, and really understanding what you want, we sort of like, you are outsourcing this to us. And what we do is we blog on your behalf. We do directory submissions on your behalf, citation building on your behalf. We're uploading pictures of you every other day. We're making sure that you're starting to look like that rock star that you are on Google search, but also like social media, as well as your website. We're making sure all the right keywords are on your website. So if someone's searching for you, boom, there they are. And then we've got a form. And what's happening is people are starting to fill these forms. This is what we call our lead magnets. People fill this form out and it comes to your email. So here you are just sitting around, lounging or chilling with your friends. There's a lead in your inbox for you.
I love that. And so I want to reiterate for our listeners, done for you, full service, 20 years in the industry at doing this at a very high level. One thing you offered is a 15-minute free strategy call. And again, I think the biggest takeaway from this podcast has been what works and what doesn't work. Well, we know what you're doing works. And what I wanted our listeners to really take away from this is like what we hired you to do, the done for you service that's taking all of these things and doing it daily. I don't have time or expertise. What's funny is we're trying to figure out these Cleveland properties and get just the listings done, like get verified. We couldn't even get our previous property manager to get us verified. And he had a lady that he paid to do marketing for him. She that was her only job. And we failed at there. We couldn't get verified, which was so frustrating. But we didn't have the time, we didn't have the expertise. And so I think our listeners need to reach out to you, do the 15-minute strategy call, and they should ask you the same question. They should say, here's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I know you're going to tell them, stop doing this, do this. Here's what we can do for you. And so I love that. So one way to get a hold of you is you can text or call. I'll put this in the show notes, but 718-578-2330. You can visit marketingpowerhouse.com. I know you're on social media as well. So I'll put all of those in the show notes. I'll make sure I blast that out. I'll tag you on social media. So I appreciate you being on the call. One of the things I like to end with is, and it's great to talk about marketing, great to talk about real estate and business. You talked about being a good person. I have two children of my own, and Betty Joe has four kids, so we're a full house here. It's really hard to have a work-life balance, but I kind of treat uh, I like what you said, be a good person. And I work really hard to be a good dad, stepdad, partner. And one of the things we're focusing on this year is taking time away from business at specific times during the week. And so I want to talk about your personal life a little bit. What are you doing to be purposeful and have good intent with your family or something you're doing in life? And then I want to talk a little bit more about what we're doing, but I wanted to hear what you're doing.
Yeah, I love that you're asking that. I'm a mom of two wonderful kids. Ariana's now 12 in her peak tween season. Viraj just turned 10. We live in the Bay Area, so as you can imagine, it's a very hectic life.
Mhm.
And what we've been very intentional about, Sam, is just quality time with the kids, right? So they come home in the evening after all day classes, and we're running around taking them to different classes, as I've texted you several times. Uh, what we want to do is find those pockets of time, whether it's us just driving in the car together, to bond, to ask them about their day, for me to even share about my day. And again, be authentic with my kids and say, you know what, mommy had a tough day, or you know what, it was a fantastic day. We closed a big deal, or I hung out with a dear friend and, she was talking about her parenting things. So I love spending time with my kids in the car. We love doing one-on-one time with each family member. And I do this little daily ritual with them, which is, what was your rose of the day? What was your bud of the day? And what was your thorn of the day? And I've done that with them since they were like toddlers. And now they sit in the car when I do pick up at school time, and they just go, Mommy, rose of the day was something I was happy about. Bud of the day is something I'm grateful for today. And thorn of the day is something that made me sad or mad. And even if we don't have a lot of time during weekdays, like that's something that helps me connect with them. And then that way they connect with me. And to me, like, life will always go on, business will always be there, but their childhood will not come back. And so I savor
Love that.
every minute and second of just being their mom, and it's such a fulfilling part of my life.
I love that. I love that. And, a couple years ago, I stopped asking them how school was.
Yeah.
I started asking them exactly what you just said. What's something bad that happened to you
Yeah.
today? What's something good that happened to you today?
Yeah.
What did you do at recess? And so I don't ask how they did at school. I don't ask, how was your weekend?
Yeah.
Specific, what's something good? What's something bad? And they open up and they talk to me. It seems like electronics really dominate kids' thought process. Like they get home, they want to be on the iPad or they want to be on TV. And so I've started requiring them to go on walks. Nope, you got to go on a walk, got to take the dog on a walk. You've got to do something fun outside. And I just saw actually a Instagram video that I'm going to start implementing. We'll see how it goes. But they've got to do yoga and a little bit of exercise before they can have access to any electronics.
I love that. Yeah.
And yeah, it's funny, like if I forget to do that, I feel like they get home and they're just on electronics and it completely controls their brain. So I've been trying to interrupt that process and say, okay, no electronics till after 4:35, and you got to do this, this, and this. And just their happiness level has changed. Like they didn't like it at first, but now they know they can't even like they still ask a lot, but they know I'm just going to say, no, you got to go to do this, this, and this. And being very intentful with what I'm doing with them, the conversations I'm having with them, how much time they're on video or video games and iPads. And, my goal as well is to be here, be very present
Right.
and have very specific things I do with them during their childhood. Cause you're right. Heidi's turning 12 this year. She's got 6 more years here with me, and she's
I,
only with me 50% of the time. Liam's, yeah, he's turning 8, 10 more years. And so one thing I did as well is I stopped working on Wednesdays after school.
oh, that's
I
great.
don't see him, I dropped him off at school Friday and haven't seen him since. I'll have him for the next 5 days. But, days that I haven't seen him in a few days, I stop working when they get home from school and spend some very good quality time with my kids. Because you're right, clients will be there later, work will be there later. I can work the rest of my life, but I definitely don't want to miss out on their childhood.
For sure. And another thing that I know works well is, um, Ariana and Viraj want to share more during bedtime. I don't know what it is about bedtime where they kind of like let their guard down, especially as like tweens and teenagers, where they're like, Mommy,
Yep.
you know what happened today? Or, Mommy, this friend said this, and I was wondering about that. Because I think that's when they're just like getting ready to retire and their wall is down, like that guard is down. So I
Love
think
that.
really nice pocket of time to get through to them too.
Yep. I love that. Yeah, I started kind of recording some of our conversations just for fun and so they'll kind of share stuff and they'll get goofy but yeah, at night they want to share way more and that's I like that you pointed that out for sure. Well, we're kind of out of time. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I think this has been really fantastic. Again, my big key takeaways: be a good person, but also don't do marketing that doesn't work, and reach out to Bhavna because you're going to be honest. One thing that my clients really like about me is that I'm brutally honest. I'll sometimes talk myself out of a sale because it's not right for my client. And I like that you said you will tell your clients, hey, stop doing this. Like, stop. You could get them to pay you money for those things, but I think honesty goes a long way. And being good at what you do, being able to get actual results for people. And so, again, I'll put all of your contact info in the show notes. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. This is huge. Thank you for working on our stuff for us. I'm so glad we hired you. And yeah, thank you for being on.
Sam, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed our conversation. And I hope the listeners also enjoy listening to us. And I can't wait to hear from them.
Absolutely. I'm sure they're going to reach out, and I'll tag you, and I'm going to put this on social media as well. We'll see how my marketing does. You can grade me, but Bhavna, thanks again so much. This has been awesome.